Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Bet on Black Pitch. My name is Tawana Rivers. This is the 10K Project, and we are so glad you guys are here to join us. And for everyone who's going to watch the replay later, we welcome you as well, and we thank you. We have with us today founder Khalid David with TracFlo. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the campaign page, and I'm going to hand it over to Khalid so he can tell us about himself and, of course, tell us about his project. All right, so let me share my screen. All right, so here's the campaign page. It's on Republic. As you guys know, for all of you who are returning to watch the pitch, we will put this link in the chat throughout the evening. It'll probably be put in the chat 30 times before the night's over. But we like to pull it up so that we can walk you through where you can find information about the campaign. One of the most important things about this campaign is it has 24 days left, right? So we're always talking about doing our due diligence, but also not wasting time, because you don't want time to get away from you and then the campaign is closed and you miss an opportunity that you may have been interested in. So that's the first thing I want to point out. As you can see, thus far, Khalid has surpassed his goal. He's doing really well with this campaign, so congratulations to you. We also have all of the due diligence information is listed here. So you can see all of this information, the valuation, the minimum investment on this one is $100. This is a crowd safe. You can see the SEC documents and all of the legal documents. Khalid's got some perks here for anyone who invests at a certain level. And then you can look over to the left-hand side of the page. And, I always tell you guys, go through every single link. The founders put a lot of time and energy into building their campaign page, and they put all the things in there that they know are going to help you determine if you want to invest or not. And so most of the questions that we may have could be found here. So if you forget to ask a question tonight, or if something pops in your head later after we're gone, please feel free to come look at this page to see if the answer is there. And if not, you guys know where I'm going to send you. When you go to the discussion tab, this is where you can ask additional questions. I also recommend reading the questions that have previously been asked and answered here as well. All right? So this is the TracFlo page. I'm going to take you down to the team. This is the team. And then I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to hand the reins over to Khalid to tell us about himself and to tell us about TracFlo. Brother, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first I want to thank you all for taking the time out to just hear my story and the things that we're doing at TracFlo. We've also recently taken on, I think, so you liked it, Tawana, we've actually started galvanize other entrepreneurs and creating platforms to help them share their story. And we're doing an event in DC this week on Thursday at the Gathering Spot, where this time we're bringing investors who've invested in companies like ours to have a conversation around why they're investing, some of those questions that you may have, and I'll be moderating that. So if anyone's in DC, I'd love to have you in the room. We can have an intimate conversation about the work that we're doing. So that said, I'm Khalid David, founder and CEO of TracFlo. So I grew up in the construction industry. I come from 3 generations of carpenters. My dad was a carpenter, my grandfather, and all my uncles. So I was on job sites as early as 12, learning to level walls, install cabinets, what have you. I was formally trained as a civil engineer. I did a dual degree program between Morehouse and Columbia, and graduated and ran a small subcontracting firm with my dad and uncle. They pretty much ran the field, I ran the books. And that's where I first began to understand the pain points when it comes to construction costs and those challenges that contractors face. I did that for a few years, and then eventually ended up at Turner Construction, one of the largest commercial builders in the US. I think actually in 2020, they were the #1 builder in the nation. And at Turner, I ended up joining this team that was building innovative products. And I was on an internal team that was helping turn and build software internally. And we did that for a few years, and we did a lot of things, but the things we did really well was help them manage costs. So much so we built a solution that at its height was managing about 180 million of what we call at-risk work. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what that means, but let's say project cost above and beyond the base contract. Grew that so large that Turner decided that, hey, they're a 100-year-old construction company and not a software company, and that they didn't actually want to build technology, and they didn't really have the right tools to build it. Met with the CEO, met with the CIO, and quite literally the senior vice president of engineering wrote my letter of recommendation for MIT because they felt like they couldn't really offer me a career to grow here, but they had loved the work that we had done at the company. And at MIT is where TracFlo pretty much was born. My co-founder was the lead developer on my team at Turner, and we've been pretty much been growing ever since. I see myself as a builder first, and I believe that technology are the tools for the next generations of builders, and that's how I approach the work. So that's a little backstory about me. This is my life's work. This is something I have a deep passion for, and it means a lot to me. And now let's get into what is it that we actually do. And questions at the end, right? Okay, allow me to share my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen? Y'all see my screen?
Yes, sir, we see it.
So we are TracFlo, construction financials done right. So this is not the right slide. Well, so I'll start with, so who here has done a kitchen or bathroom renovation?
Just recently, both.
Just recently, both. Okay, perfect. And if I understand correctly, it probably started at one price and ended up at a completely different price. And so you experience a phenomenon in the industry that we call change orders. And simply put, they're unforeseen changes to a project scope. And when you're building commercial skyscrapers in Midtown Manhattan, we deal with the same challenges, just this time in tens of millions of dollars. At TracFlo, we build an online platform that help large commercial contractors track, input, and manage change orders in one simple place, saving them time and money. And the reason we do this is because, well, 90% of projects experience change orders. And what typically happens is when a subcontractor has an unforeseen change, they have one or two decisions. Either they go ahead and do the work, or either they stop and not work and face any penalties for delaying any trades that come after them or delaying the project, or they go ahead and do the work and try to document it the best they can. When that happens, it creates a phenomenon we call at-risk work. It's work that's done, but we haven't necessarily accounted for it. It's the number one reason why project ends in financial disputes, and over 90% of projects experience these change orders. And we think that change orders, they're just the tip of the iceberg. What we're doing is digitizing construction payments. And we see that as a global business opportunity. At the $555 billion commercial US market that exists in commercial construction, about 45% of those payments are still happening on paper. So we want to be the tool that digitizes that. I also want to add, the recent infrastructure bill has caused us to reevaluate the market, and it has pretty much grown the market potential much larger, because there's going to be a wave of construction that's coming that will face these exact similar problems. So we haven't even quite updated our projections and our market analysis with the infrastructure bill, but we are very confident that there's a lot of headwinds coming. So how do we do it? Well, we took a paper process and we turned it to a digital one. we gave the contractors an ability to digitize their payment process in one simple place, and then ultimately be able to share that information with their back office, all to be able to all in kind of one simple platform. And our customers are loving it. So what we did was, most of the market is pretty much dealing with the paper process. And industry leading payments platform, TracFlo, they're more like, let's say, online banking. They pretty much allow you to pay digitally once you've settled your books as the accountants, but it doesn't capture all the mobile aspect. What we did at TracFlo is we took it one step further and we made it mobile. And if TracFlo is online banking, TracFlo is the Venmos and Zelles and Cash Apps of the world. In the same way how if you're out with dinner with friends, you use these apps to kind of settle your bills while you're all in the same place. Well, what we're allowing multiple contractors to do is to be physically on site and to settle who owes who what in a mobile environment long before it gets to the accountants. And that added value is something that our customers are really loving, and it's how we're going to ultimately take over the market from some of the existing players. And we've been quite busy. In 2020, we processed about $17.4 million in change orders transaction. This year, we're averaging about 1.4 million a month in 2021 in terms of how many transactions flow through our platform. And we're also working with some of the largest commercial projects in New York City right now. So how do we make money? Well, we charge a small fee for what's processed, about 20 basis points or 0.2%. And at that rate, as we continue to grow at our rate, we can see ourselves producing about 95K a month, monthly recurring revenue in a year's time. So I told you a little bit about me. Let me tell you about my co-founder, Jake. He started as a designer turned developer. Been working with him over almost 6 or 7 years now. We've weathered many storms together. And you know, we've seen the ups and downs in business, and we've been able to make it through. We're also funded and supported by Rough Draft, MIT's Delta V, Metaprop, which is one of the leading prop tech investors in New York City, and Plug and Play. There's 2 more pieces of information I want to add. In Q2 of this year, we landed on Hudson Yards. The 66 Spiral project is the 3rd largest project by volume in New York City. And it added about 31 subcontractors and 100 new users to our platform. We're really excited about that because it shows that our product can work at scale, and just that our industry relationships are going far. And that's it. That's the TracFlo. That's the TracFlo business. So what I like to close with. So usually I walk everyone through this product and they say, okay, this sounds amazing, but what's the $1 billion business? The $1 billion version of TracFlo is not simply a digital payments provider. It's a marketplace for all the information that we capture digitally that ultimately turns into payments. So let me explain. So when we capture these kind of payments process, we know exactly how much sheetrock, how much material a project needs. We know how much they use that day. We see ourselves, the $1 billion version of TracFlo also has a marketplace where different lumber yards can offer prices to our contractors as they're using these materials to see if they can get, sheetrock at a different price or screws at a different price. There's also a huge labor market opportunity here. So we can tell you the difference that, a union carpenter makes on the west side of Manhattan versus the east side of Manhattan. So we're pretty much showing the real-time demand for labor on construction sites. So the $1 billion version of TracFlo is a marketplace that as subcontractors see themselves scaling up, and they need more workers, that we're showing that, hey, we know exactly, we're offering those workers an opportunity to get linked up with these companies because they're about to go in on a hiring blitz. And then lastly, what change orders are a leading indicator to when companies need additional access to capital. So let's say you had a $10 million contract, that contract got expanded to 13 million, and you didn't plan for the additional working capital to get to 13 million. Oftentimes, we've had factoring companies reach out to us and say, hey, the data that you're capturing with these customers would be really helpful if we wanted to offer short-term financing or any type of capital infusion for these companies as their project costs are changing. We see ourselves again being that type of broker where one of our customers could click a button and have one of their receivables factors or applied for, an additional line of credit in order to keep the project going. So right now we're primarily focused on gaining financial trust with contractors, helping them treat their work in a different way. But in that process, the information that we're capturing will ultimately position us to be a $1 billion business that does more than process payments, when the payment process market is huge all by itself. But there's plenty more to be done as we continue to digitize this part of the construction business. So yeah, that's TracFlo.
Very good. I love that you shared the real power play with us. That's we talk about the data all the time, and that's where the money is, and that's what you just described is you're gathering all of this information. Why not monetize it as well? Because it's gold. It really is. Wonderful. Thank you, Khalid. All right, guys. So this is where, if you've got any questions, please put them in the Q&A instead of the chat so we can follow them clearly. I'll start by asking the first question, if I may. I know you primarily do business in the New York area. What's your plan to expand to the rest of the country?
That's a great question. So we are actually on our national expansion right now. We're expanding to 3 markets: Chicago, Atlanta, I guess for the DMV, and LA. And the reason why we're doing that is because construction is very, very much relationship based. And what we're discovering is that as companies emerging, they're emerging as regional players. And we're at the point where we actually need to have a stake in multiple regions so that as these projects mature and grow, that we're present there. The average project cycle is about 2 to 5 years. So if we convince, let's say, a project team of 50 people to fall in love with our product, it's going to take 2 to 5 years before they go out and expand to new projects to take our product to those other projects. So we can't wait that time to enter a market. We actually have to get 1 or 2 projects in multiple markets so we can kind of grow in parallel instead of in series. So we're actually in talks with a major project in Chicago right now. I've been meeting with C.D. Moody in Atlanta as my kind of my go-to-market strategy in Atlanta. And I'm meeting with a group of developers in LA next week. And we've been using a lot of our Turner connections to actually introduce us to new markets. And that Spiral project has been our calling card as one of a project that can work at scale. So yes, we're very aggressive about entering multiple markets right now.
Good, very good. All right. Chris says, is this a good system for small contractors? Also, what is the fee for the contractor?
Yeah, so this works well for small contractors too. Our platform, so the way it's set up, we're set up like a multi-sided platform. Whether you're a general contractor or subcontractor, you can use our product independently, and then you can connect the 2 products. Our fee typically for small contractors could be somewhere to $200 to $300 a month. We look at what they're going to process, and we do our best to get to that point, that 0.2% range. But if your company's small, it could be a couple $100 a month. And we've seen it at those multiple scale. So yeah, the product works high and large. It's just that with these large contracts, they're the ones who they're going to see changes at tens of millions of dollars, and they're going to be very aggressive about protecting that.
Good. Next question is from Daisha. Can you walk us through how you identified and eventually won the Hudson Yards opportunity? Then there's a second question here, but I'll let you answer that first one.
Now, I can't give away all my trade secrets, but let's just say, man, how do I put this? All right, so there's a couple things. So one, we have a great relationship with Turner. I left the company on good terms. I've demonstrated I'm committed to helping the construction industry move forward through technology. And they feel, and they rightfully so, they feel like my success is a product of their environment. So that Hudson Yards project is a Turner job. And having that relationships and having those few people on the inside was extremely helpful. How we actually got the job is that companies typically invest in a change order solution about a third of the way through the project when the physical environment catches up to what's on the drawings. At that point, if the change orders are a problem, they'll bring in a new engineer, or they'll spend money on staff to try to solve it. I've gotten to the point where I understand what that looks like physically on a building. It's when the core is kind of all the way up and the glass is up about a third or halfway through. That's usually that point. So we pretty much identified visually some projects that looked like they were at that point, put on a hard hat, boots, really walked on the site and asked to speak to the project executive and asked him if he was having these pains and what solutions they were doing. And he was like, how did you know? How could you tell? A little bit of, we walked through that, and then all the relationships and all that stuff, it kind of affirmed it. It made them even more confident. So yeah, so that's how the spiral job was gotten. And we also had, we landed a pilot with another large project in New York maybe about 8 months prior, and they were our reference point to actually close it. So it was a couple of things, but it looked the right way that we felt like. I felt like it would be a good time to target the project.
Good. Daisha's second part of the question is, what would be the additional net income this project would add per year and over the life of the project?
Yeah, I think with this project, we let me think. I think we negotiated around $1,500 a month. That was what, 12? Is that 16,000 a year about something like that? Yeah, I think 1,500 a month, 16,000 a year, and they had about 3 years left on the project, so about a $48,000 contract. All
right. So I've got another question. So how do you protect this idea, right? So it's innovative, but just like you came on the heels of another top performer in the space and you perfected what they do, how do you protect someone from coming in and one-upping you? I mean, do you have patents, or how do you protect this?
Yeah, I mean, in software is often protected like trade secrets, because when you patent software, you have to make it public, and it's different. It's like code is something that if I write it one way and it does a thing, you could write it a different way and do the same thing and say, well, I didn't do that. So for the most part, you protect software like trade secrets. And really your best competitive advantage is speed to market. So we've had companies copy us. We've seen it. We've had to deal with the challenge of, hey, a company saw what we were doing and copying us. But the relationship piece is so important that you can't necessarily duplicate that by building it in software. And that's important because our approach to customer success, our customer service component, in terms of how we're winning over the hearts and minds of tradesmen that they should do business with us, that's much harder to copy than us solving a problem. So that's one. Secondly, if something was a paper process, it's considered common knowledge. Turn it into a digital, you can't necessarily protect it because it's already common knowledge in a paper process. What we do in terms of how do we create a sustainable competitive advantage on the technology side are all the things, we didn't even talk about the machine learning things that we do. So these are things that you don't see on my website. We don't actually publicize in terms of what we're building, but that, let's say that change order process that we digitize. Typically before, it would take 60 days for when a guy writes down something happens in a ticket book and it goes through all the approval process and the owner finally sees the report that says, hey, last month we had to spend an extra $30,000. What we're able to do is as soon as that tradesman said, hey, I need 4 extra guys and this much material, we pre-upload the labor contract, pre-upload the material price, and we can present that financial projection to the owner in real time. So we can say, hey, this is the financial exposure that we're seeing. And over the next 60 days, you're going to see the documentation come in that validates that. But through a linear regression, which is kind of like a machine learning tool, we're able to kind of predict that. Our customers are, for the most part, asking us for price volatility. So we're working on a predictive algorithm that force rank ticket items if the materials listed in it have price volatility. So let's say the cost of steel is changing, and out of their 70 items, 20 of them incorporate something that has the cost of steel. What we're pretty much doing is highlighting those and bringing them to the top of the list and saying, hey, these items have price volatility because of the cost of steel. And if you wait 30 days, what was $1 a pound, maybe $1.50 a pound. You may need to prioritize that. So really, in terms of the tech side, we see machine learning and actually helping engineers make those decisions as our technical competitive advantage. But we actually don't publicize that online because right now we're still on the data grab. The data grab. And again, we had those experiences where we put things out there and we got them copied. So we expose that to our customers. We incorporate that into the experience, but we don't necessarily advertise just yet.
Will it also, or does it also have the ability, like using the steel as an example, to tell me where, as a contractor, tell me where I can get it cheaper? Like do a price comparison?
When I was talking about the $1 billion business, the marketplace, we're not there yet, but that's the marketplace. Because those people who want to display their prices, they're gonna have to pay us to get access to our customers. So that's where we'd like to be. Right now, what we're just trying to do is offer enough value to our customers that they could get, really, they get really hooked on the experience. But that's what we think when we talk about that's the $1 billion business. That's a whole business in of itself to allow contractors to compare prices in the app when they're like, hey, I need 4 extra pounds of nails or something like that. So yes, I like your way you're thinking though.
Very good. Very good. All right, guys, please put your questions in the Q&A. Eddie says, what's the end goal for TracFlo? Sell or keep?
So me personally, this is deep. I believe that TracFlo will be a publicly traded company. And I also believe that that I'm building the next generation of American enterprise. And I mean, this is, I feel like this is I won't call it safe space, but I'm gonna be as transparent as possible as I can be with you guys. But see, I fundamentally believe that the reason why Black founders struggle with getting access to capital is that they're, especially in this pre-seed level, is that there is an unconscious bias from high net worth individuals, because oftentimes they have no frame of reference. They have nothing that they can compare us to. They don't have a person they went to school with, a person that they saw hit it big, that they can say, hey, Khalid David is the next version of that. That's why it's important not only to build the future of American enterprise, but to build it at the highest level. I am not looking to cash out, not simply because pretty much getting to the point where we can sell the business means that I'm doing pretty well financially. My goal is not just to build a successful company, but be the type of leader that the world can say represents the future of American enterprise and represents why it's so important that Black leaders get access to capital and able to bring their skills to bear. So on a pure financial point, IPO is the goal. Bringing that bell at the New York Stock Exchange is the goal. And we believe as a global digital payments provider, we can do that. But there's also a larger goal about being very present and there being an example of a Black founder taking this from cradle to grave. And that's something that keeps me going beyond the financial motivation of an IPO.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for that. Eddie asked that question. He's giving you some hand claps in the chat. So I guess that meant good answer.
Yes.
Very good. Any other questions, guys? You guys must have had a rainy day like I did. You're usually throwing questions in here. Come on now, brothers here, and get some questions answered. Is it possible to see a demo? Do you have like a demo site where we can
working demo? Yeah. I do. I wasn't necessarily prepared to do a demo, but I'm always prepared. Let me get a few sites set up, and
thank you.
Yeah, let me just jump in and see what we have going. And give me a second. But I could answer some questions that I'm sure that you guys are thinking of.
So Warren says, are you only working with domestic projects, or are you considering projects in Canada, the Caribbean, etc.? And then how about federal opportunities?
Oh yeah, that's a perfect question. So a couple things. So once we launched on Republic, we got interest from Colombia and what was it, Aruba and the Cayman Islands. So we pretty much about a month ago, we started getting the app translated into Spanish, so that we can have so it can be offered in multiple languages. We are going where the demand is. So if there's demand out abroad, we're willing to take it on. It's a digital product, so it can work anywhere. In terms of federal funding, so we are in the final stages of becoming a certified minority business. And that's important because the construction industry typically would have these MBE participation requirements. And we're one of the few technology firms that sells software and is in a position to be an MBE for the construction industry. So the LaGuardia project in New York is a $3 billion project with let's say a 25%, 30% goal. 30%, that's 900 million. What typically happens is that projects typically cannot find enough qualified contractors to hit those goals, because those contractors are typically trade contractors, painters, carpenters, steel guys. They got to have bonding. They have to have a certain capacity. They have to have a certain line of credit to handle these challenges. I mean, in fact, we know some industry leading companies who struggle with these challenges, and that's why they use solutions like TracFlo to try to solve these problems. So you could just imagine, two guys in a truck, growing their business and what challenges they face. So because of that, a lot of MBE companies end up being disqualified. They say, we did a solid look, but we could not find enough qualified contractors. TracFlo is an easy lift that allows these companies to, one, be able to hit these MBE goals, and then the two, allow our technology to proliferate on these projects. What we do with that is, imagine we get on the next big federal job. We're capturing the cost data, the labor rates, the financial demands for huge projects as a software company. So we're right now, we're in the process of getting certified by the SBA, and we're intentionally raising money as a safe, so that we don't have to change our equity status, so that we can actually roll out, keep the MBE for about 3-4 years, enter multiple markets, attack the federal market, especially with this infrastructure bill, and then eventually lose the designation when we grow too large and when we raise a certain amount of money. But absolutely, we have a full strategy, taking advantage of being MBE in the construction space. And I haven't seen, there's not a firm out there. If you've seen one, let me know, because I haven't seen a company take on that strategy, but it's something that that we think we're poised to do a really, really great job in.
Very good. Antoine says, could the back end of the platform, the data grab and reporting, be available to other industries? I see other industries benefiting, and especially those using contracting services.
Yeah, so we've had there's a lot of data companies that that work for real estate firms. We've had companies like that reach out to us, interested to see if there was a desire for our software, our data. It's typically real estate developers. They'll buy a bunch of data, like, hey, what are the construction costs? They'll buy data on how prices change, and then there's companies that services them. So we've seen a demand for it. Right now, we're just like everything. We're still in data grab phase, and we got to hit a certain size for companies to really get invested in us. So yes, there's a huge data play, but the biggest challenge is still customer adoption. And there's companies who can say, yeah, if we can get all this data, but if you can't convince that 6-year-old tradesman to now use an app, then the data never happens. So we're very much head down in terms of how do we convert users onto our platform, and the data and those opportunities, they will come. But we've seen companies make the mistake of just getting a little bit ahead of themselves, trying to galvanize and mobilize the data, but not really having the right ground game, or really have won over the respect of the industry where they trust you with their data. So absolutely, there's huge opportunities in construction cost data, everything from what we call leveling bids. So I don't know if you've heard this expression, price it low and let it grow. And oftentimes there's no data on how often does a contractor underbid and then price it up. And then especially like government agencies who are legally required to get the lowest bid, if they had any information that qualified what that lowest bid is, that can help them make a more informed decision. So usually when I'm pitching to government or anyone in government, they're like, oh my God, if you could give us some type of report on how much project costs change, or does this contractor consistently, submit bids at 85% of their end cost, then we could qualify that contractor differently, because this, especially in government, the strategy is always put a really, really low bid in to win the bid, and then you're going to make all your money on the back end. So how do we keep the industry a little more honest is something that we hear a lot of from trade contractors.
All right. So Khalid, so you've got a working product, you've got customers. What are you going to do with the money that you raise?
With the money we raise, so there's two things that we want to do. One, we need to expand. We need to be in multiple markets simultaneously. We pretty much, once we get our finish our MBE in New York City, the SBA, we want to be certified in every major city in like the next 6 to 8 months. We all know the disparities that exist when it comes to raising capital for Black founders. My competitors have raised money and have been out longer. And I need to enter, but they still haven't won over. They still don't have a foothold in New York. And they don't really have footholds in a lot of the construction markets. They have footholds in the technology markets, but not the actual building markets. So for us, I need to get into those markets. I need to get in them soon. And with an MBE certification, I can get on the major projects. Every city has like only 2 or 3 major concrete companies, 2 or 3 major drywall companies. So if you land 2 major projects in the city, you're going to capture about 85% of all the subs. Because if you're on the 2 airport projects, the 2 out of the 3 major subs are between those 2 jobs. So our strategy has become land 2 projects in each market, get exposure to those subs, win those subs over. Construction folks are very brand sensitive. Think Harley Davidson, think tough guys who only like a certain kind of tape measure. And if your tape measure looks cheap, they'll throw it back at you. We understand that, and we want to make sure that we're winning hearts and minds and winning over contractors with our experience on site. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to do is expand to multiple markets. The second thing we're going to do is change orders are only represent 5 to 10% of the contract. It is the most volatile type, 5 to 10%. It makes or break your profit margins. So companies are willing to pay us now to just wrap their mind around that important piece of the contract. But what we want to do is we want to cover the entire contract. If we're getting 20 basis points off of that 10%, if we could just capture that 90%, we could 10x our business just by being able to do the entire construction billing. So right now, so what we want to do is we want to build out that product roadmap so that we can do the entire construction billing and then produce those payment apps all digitally. Once those 2 things are done, then we'll likely raise for a larger raise to go ahead and allow payments to actually flow through us. There's a whole process you got to go through with the FEC. You need at least $250,000 for the license. So we're going to need, maybe $3 to $4 million for that next phase. But I believe and I know that you have to win over the hearts and minds of contractors before you get to that. I've seen companies go out there and they've built all this infrastructure. The CEOs have never been on a site, never swung a hammer, and they have no customers. All the technology, they raise the money, got all the technology, but no one's doing business with them because they don't understand how personal the industry really is. So our goal is, hey, if we can get a certain amount of people just using change orders digitally, we got them. The next wave is going to be, okay, you do all your payments digitally. We have them. Those projects are going to take 2 or 5 years to turn over. When they go to the next project is when we're going to be able to say, hey, you could do your payments, all that stuff through us. But we got to win them over now. And it's more important to win them over and start changing their work process than it is to say, we can do all these things. Mm-hmm. So those are the plans with the money.
Good.
Yeah, and also stay vocal. So I'm on this Activate the Culture tour, and I'll post my LinkedIn so you guys can see some of the stuff that I'm sharing. But I've put on other Black entrepreneurs in this space. I've become really vocal about the challenges we face. I've dispelled the myth that if you go to MIT for an MBA and you're a Morehouse man and you're an Ivy Leaguer and you do all these things, that they're going to cut you the check. It's a myth. And it's important that a leader like me comes out and says it, so that we wrestle with the reality, and we wrestle with the need to build new American enterprise that are led and founded by leaders that come from diverse communities. And I think that as we expand, you can expect more of that. So yes.
Good. Daisha says, can you talk about your VC investors?
Yes. So our VC investor is Metaprop. They're one of the leading prop tech investor in New York City, and also Rough Draft. They came out of they're a student fund out of General Catalyst. I think Peter Boyle started Rough Draft, and then now we also have some Plug and Play. So a little about our VC investors. So we came through Metaprop's accelerator in 2019, in fall of 2019. They have a lot of contacts in the real estate and real estate development market. And then when we left the accelerator, we were launching our fundraise, as you guys know, right, that early 2020, the pandemic happened, and we weren't really able to kind of do the fundraise in the way that we would. We did end up getting term sheets from another set of investors for about a $500,000 investment. But ultimately, when we had 315K in commitments, when it came down to close that last 150K, I realized I didn't have the networks, I didn't have the angels, so we weren't able to close that. But for my current VC investors, anytime we have a raise, they're always willing to provide follow-on capital. They want to provide follow-on capital. I think that they do a decent job in their understanding for prop tech. But I realize that I'm still the foremost expert. They're not actually construction experts, and it's subtle, but it is a huge difference. Talking to a developer about these challenges doesn't quite resonate the same as talking to a person who does it every day. So yeah, I have a good relationship with them. Yeah, I don't know. Did I answer the question, or you just
Yeah, I
asked
think you
about that?
did. I think you did.
Okay.
If TracFlo, this is Dr. Charlotte, if TracFlo does not move to IPO, how will small scale investors benefit?
So, so pretty much every time we raise, depending on who we raise, they will often offer you an opportunity to buy you out. Small scale investors will benefit as the value of the company increases. So right now we're raising at a 6.5 mil, and the moment that we get we do a formal round, your investment now will convert at the price point of that formal VC round at a higher valuation. When after this, we're not raising at anything less than about 10 mil, pretty much. If we don't IPO, there's at least 3 potential exits that we've already identified. SAP and Oracle are leading leading these kind of what's the word called, company resource management tools, and Oracle purchased a competitor Techstore in 2016. So we think that they may have a healthy appetite to acquire a company like us. And we're already talking now with SAP about being a certified partner to integrate with their platform. And then there are two companies, Autodesk, which has bought most of construction companies. So they have a platform called Autodesk Construction Cloud. And they've purchased a drawing tool. They've purchased a scheduling tool. They haven't purchased a finance tool to add to their portfolio. And then there's a company called Procore that's also acquiring. So there are some potential exits before IPO that you will have as a retail investor. The first would be, as we bring in venture capital, they may ask to clean up the cap table and buy out some of your shares, and you can convert at that rate at that point. We've already identified companies for a potential acquisition. And that's also an exit point, and then ultimately IPO. So there'll be a few off ramps on the road if you're ready.
Very good. Daisha says, with Eric Adams as the new mayor, wouldn't a well-connected lobbyist be worth the cost?
I mean, I'm not a political guy, I'm an engineer. Absolutely, possibly. Yes, you let me know. I network, I understand how important it is to network amongst the construction professionals and those decision makers. And I'm a part of quite a few associations. And I get that you gotta have drinks with a certain guy to get deals. And so I know what that looks like in the construction space. In terms of how the intersection of construction and politics is still relatively new. I literally had to learn from a mentor, like as we went through this MBE process, that you got to call up somebody in City Hall that's a friend to get things moved along. And I'm like, why does it work that way? Not to say I'm naive, but I just thought that, oh, we put all our information in and we should be fine. And it's not until I called someone up that things started moving. So absolutely, I think there's huge opportunity. The reality is that we are something new, and I'm watching people trying to understand it. When we get into meetings because of MBE, they're typically looking for a concrete company. And the decision makers who kind of source those materials, they often don't know the pain points that our technology solution is solving. The person who typically knows are project engineers and project executives. So we find ourselves doing this dance where when we get into a meeting by MBE, they're like, oh, well, well, you guys sell software. There's no public bids for software. But we're using that to get introductions to that executive that's like, who understands the pain points. So it's all new territory right now. And that's the burden of being an innovator. So yes, if you once you make your investment and you love to make sure that TracFlo is on a great trajectory to do so, make an introduction. I'll follow up on it. I'll do my part. But there is no, from my understanding, even with the MBE goals, there's no, the people who wrote the laws haven't wrapped their mind around technology, but we fit in the diversity supplier group. Their goals is just to make sure a certain amount of money are going to these companies. But the channel, there's no channel that exists. We're pioneering that channel right now. So yes.
Very good. Very, very good. Any more questions?
So I have a question that I can answer for you guys. I've been getting a lot. And it's really around what's our plan for this infrastructure bill. So the infrastructure is pretty much going to double the market share that we have been projecting for this company to have. And it's something that we actually been working on for about the past 3 months. We contracted with 2 consultants who who look for opportunity to enter the space, has backgrounds in infrastructure, and saw that TracFlo could be a huge fit and was very interested in joining our firm to do so. So what we really do is vertical construction, and infrastructure is horizontal construction. There's subtle changes, but the same problems exist. Costs change, and you have to document how many people, what it costs you, and what type of materials you use. And we also know that the Biden administration is going to have these large MBE goals, especially in today's climate. So right now, where we see a huge opportunity to really develop a plan to attack this infrastructure piece. And we actually need people to help us attack it. So we're pretty much coming up with a plan. We're gonna do some testing like we do anything else. We're gonna talk to customers, understand the pain points over the next 6 months, and launch a version of our product that's really designed for highway, mostly highway, something that's simple, that's digestible. And I'm grateful that we're in a position to take advantage of this. So, outside of all that we're going to do in the construction space, I think that you guys, that you also should be, we're very bullish around what a company like us, how we're going to take advantage of this. And that's something that, again, we haven't come out. Over the next 6 months, you're going to see us, launch maybe a web page that says, oh, TracFlo for infrastructure, or TracFlo for highways and bridges, and then start really targeting those customers. But that's going to provide some huge headwinds, and we're going to run with this MBE firm. So I do think that what I'm discovering even now with this, as we're on this public campaign, there is a political piece that's at play that's kind of bubbling up. And I have that, I've discovered that I've actually, I won't say pretty, that I'm up for the challenge. There's a darling effect that needs to happen to really take advantage of all that's going on. I feel like I have the right combinations of skills to do so. So So yeah, I think that's something that you guys should definitely think about in terms of one, how to make sure that you're going to get return on investment, and then two, to be a part of TracFlo and what we're building is not just betting on these financial returns of this software company. It's really betting on what what type of company we're building and what's going to be our stance. So
Very good. Thank you for that, Khalid. Hey, if there are no more questions, I'll close it out kind of with, first of all, thanking you for joining us and taking the time to join us. I think this is any project that can save money is great. You're saving a lot of people a lot of money, and that's awesome. To the community, I say this every week, right? It's not my job to tell you to invest in any of these businesses that we bring to in front of you to present. You have to make that decision for yourself to determine if the company fits in your portfolio. You have to do your own due diligence. But one of the things that I consistently do week after week is I tell you the importance of sharing this campaign, right? So even if you're not interested in this, or if you are, there could be 20 other people in your life that are interested without a doubt, no questions asked. And so the only way they'll know about it sometimes is if you share it, right? Because they may not be following the social media outlets where Khalid is presenting and talking and sharing. And so please, please, please share this campaign link. We've put it in the chat throughout the evening. Take it, copy it, put it on your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, tag TracFlo so that others can see the great work that Khalid is doing in this space. I love that this is a new industry we've learned about this evening. We haven't done anything in the construction industry yet. So that was good to hear and to learn. But please, please, please share this campaign. Khalid, do you have any final words for the family?
Yes. So one, I just put the event for
Oh,
for
good. And put your
week,
LinkedIn in there as well, because you do some nice things. You really share some good information on
Oh,
your
really?
LinkedIn.
I do what I can. I try. So yeah, if you use the code invest, I get you a comp ticket, and also we'll be live streaming, so you can tune in from wherever you are. Yeah. So if I get to leave you guys, you all with anything, I want to leave. Man. All right, I'm just gonna say it, man.
Say it. Listen, say it.
All right. You guys get me nervous sometimes. Yeah, get me nervous because sometimes I've struggled with my gift. So I studied physics and engineering and even business at an engineering school. And I'm a techie at the core. But I've been blessed with this ability to kind of someone calls it articulate the struggle. And be able to talk about the nuances of what it means to be a tech entrepreneur, what it means to be all these things, and my Blackness and my first generationness and all that stuff. So the panel that we're doing on Thursday, I've invited investors who are invested in Black companies to actually talk about what they're doing, why they invest, and what that is. And I believe that wealth creation is a form of activism, that when we go out and we create enterprise, that we are pushing back against the racial wealth gap. And I believe that technology is the greatest wealth creation vehicle of our time. There has not been a time where you can go from idea to IPO in 5 to 7 years and turn an idea into a billionaire. And when traditionally, when that has happened, it has been reserved to very, very small communities. And the founders create wealth for themselves and their families, but not just the founders, their first 5, 10, 15, 100 employees. Now, we know that diverse founders make diverse hiring decisions. So when a leader like me takes a company from idea to IPO, that means that when I gave, Jessica a shot at employee number 5, or this person a shot, when I'm deciding creating a company in my own image, that those first 5, first 10, 100 employees, they look more like our community. Don't get me wrong, there's going to be the Johns and the Jeffs, they're going to be there, but we'll be more represented. But the investors, those people who invest early long, they make so much money. And before you had to have, 250,000 in income and over $1 million in assets to even participate, just to participate. And now with equity crowdfunding, what we're doing is we're giving our own communities the opportunity to make money with us, so that when you're on stage and when you're in your kitchen and you're watching TracFlo ring this bell, that you're jumping for joy because you turned that $1,000 into $10 million, and your grandkids are going to go to college based off of a bet that you made back in the day. So this fight, and the question around the IPO, the fight is not just about, what's the market validation and the pieces and all that stuff. I am pound for pound the foremost expert on construction in this space. There's not another founder who owns a tool belt. I haven't met one, not only from the construction side, but also how well trained I am. If we get on the field, they can't see me. If we talk about this technology stuff, they can't see me. The only advantage is access to capital. And I'm getting fists in the chat.
Yes. Said, talk that talk.
So what we're doing as a community is saying, one, we believe in us, and two, we gonna make this money together. And that's activism. That's the real fight. That's what we're pushing for. Like, we can build, we're going to build a business. We're going to build a large business, but there's something about, when TracFlo's on every major project and somebody is salty because we did it as an MBE and we innovated the model. They created MBE so that ME and Women BE, so that their wives and their daughter could take advantage of it. And they were well aware that, well, if you don't have access to capital, they can say, we did a fair shot and we can do it. But this tech thing allows us to compete at a level that we haven't before. So, the investment, there's raising tides, raise all shit. The infrastructure, if a company came out right now about, hey, we're gonna do something for infrastructure, and they're forming right now, that whole market, you can feel fairly confident with just that market, not even the market that we've identified and made inroads with and all that stuff, the $1 billion digital construction payments market. But to be a part of fighting the racial wealth gap with your capital, with your money, with your voice, with your resources, to say this is the type of leader that we want to put on, because there's guys out there that are brilliant and talented and do all these things, but they don't talk like this. If you go on my LinkedIn, look at the stuff that I post about. They don't do it for the culture in the same way I do. And I'm committed to that. So an investment in us is not just about the market. It's really about what type of leaders we want to create the future of American enterprise. And that's the fight. That's a fight. And I'm asking you guys, I'm imploring you guys, whether it's me, whether it's Restflick, whether it's Healthy Hip Hop, they called me up telling me how much they were struggling. And we put an event together.
That's right. You guys went to Atlanta just recently together, right? Exactly. And they all have been here at the 10K project.
Exactly. They all been, and when they called me up, I said, bro, we gonna do this and we're gonna put this together. So you guys are already part of that shared history. You already are. And we're doing stuff that hasn't been done. So
and that's why we're here. That's why we're here. That's what the 10K is about. It's everything you just said. Having that early seat at this table so that we can build wealth and also help you build wealth. What did Dean say? Dean said, I'm in local number 3 IBEW electrical union, and I assist a minority white thing every day.
That's how they get you. My dad was local 157. He just retired. I got a scholarship from him, and he'll tell me that I wouldn't have been nothing if he wasn't doing that work out there. So like I am the children of those guys So when I'm up in the room, when I'm like, yo, I'm MIT, put me on, they're like, wait, you're not supposed to, how you get on here? I talk about it before. I did a podcast with these construction guys. I'm like, you go to a job site, there's Scottish guys, Polish guys, Jamaican guys, Latinos. You look at all the construction tech companies, they don't look like any job site I've seen. So what's really happening? The people who are putting the work in place, we don't get a seat at the table. You can't hear a story about a tech leader who says, "Nah, my dad was union. He taught me to trade just in case college didn't work out. I didn't have an option. I need to learn how to level this wall just in case." Right? Like that's what this is. This is the fighting for not only what's real, what's true, but being able to walk fully in who I am, bring my whole self to the table. You know what I mean? So I'm win, lose, or draw. I'm excited about this work, and this work right here. This is it. This is it. So I commend the 10K project. Curious, what the 10K was supposed to represent? What's 10K? Is it investors? Is it people?
So it's interesting. And Cherie Warwick is our CEO, and this was kind of the name she came up with. It was really conceptual and very simple. You know, if 10,000 of us, you know, in this equity crowdfunding space, invested $100 in a founder, they've raised $1 million that they need.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, you know, that's one of our immediate goals, is to be able to do just that simple. You know, we spend $100 on foolishness every day, many of us, right? And to know that we could invest it and start to build wealth at that early seat in the table. You know, you said it, $100 today could be, you know, tens of thousands down the line, you know, and then as you multiply that, obviously the increase multiplies. So that's how the concept came up. You know, really simple. You know, group economics at its best. You know, we all band together and lift founders like you up.
I mean, I love it. So I think it was a $10,000 investment.
I'm $100 of foolishness right now.
Yeah. So we were in this new thing that we're doing with the investor thing. We were talking about how do we change the culture, because we all know about a baby shower, right? We all been to that. We'll put money together often to help the least of these, right? And we know that culture. Oh, we got to band together. We need a baby shower.
We've had rent parties. I mean, I grew up, my parents and their friends were having rent parties for each other. I just read an article. What about the business shower? What about somebody who wants to grow the business? Why are we not throwing them some?
And we have such power when Black folks and Black and brown folks put culture on a thing. It's hot. Everybody want to do it. So how do we get to, and it is us, we're going to have to do the work. How do we make this hot? How do we say, oh, this is the new rap? Oh, really? Instead of going to the club and you're going to spend $1,000 at the bar, put $1,000 on your boy's tech firm or his next venture, so that in 5 years, when you're seeing these companies, that's the thing that I just like, you got to experience it to get it. Like 5 years go by and something that you put a few dollars, oh man, they just sold. How much they sold for, this and that and that. And then you see your share price go from, man, I put 500 in that.
But see, that's my fear. My fear is that people won't act today because they need to see it in 5 years. Because we're good for that too, right? Yeah. We want to jump in after we hear our boy has success. Right? But we don't realize it took him 5 years to get to where he's at. We don't want people to wait to see it in 5 years. We want them to trust in it today, right? And act today, so that in 5 years, they then see the fruits of their own labor. They don't have to see somebody else's flex. That's the goal. That's the challenge at the same time, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I'll even say for 10K project and members, I'm gonna call you out. You know, we've got, you know, almost 2,000 members, and everybody doesn't show up. Everybody's not clicking on the newsletter, right? Everybody's not watching the replays. They're missing these opportunities that are being fed to them, right? Because other things have priority. And I think we have to decide we're going to do it, and then just do it.
I like it. Decide and do it. Decide and do it. Well, I'm here for you guys. We're gonna do this. TracFlo is gonna continue to represent to the best of my ability. But I love this. This should be publicized. This. I know you guys it's a private group, but Yeah, man, it feel good, man. I feel great. I feel great. I feel like there's a couple $1,000 investments in the room tonight. I don't know. I'm receiving that in the spirit that we're gonna have at least $10,000 investments. But really, I think that the work
Or $2,500 investments,
or
or like, keep
2,500.
doing the math, keep breaking it
Yeah,
down, right?
yeah,
Because again,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can get to that number a lot of different ways. And if the
Mm,
people respond, then
yeah,
the goal will be met. It's ultimately
yeah,
about deciding if this is the business that fits in your portfolio, if Khalid is the kind of founder you believe can add value and wealth to your portfolio, right? That's what it boils down to. And then
yeah.
just doing it.
Just do it. Do it. Put something on it. Remember if the word's good, I know y'all go to church. If the word's good, you got to put something on it. So I'm giving y'all a word, man. You got to put something on it. But also share. I think sharing
That's it.
is
The
so
sharing
important.
is the key.
You can galvanize just by sharing. If you're like, if you were moved and maybe you already spent your stimmy check already and you don't share it. Say, listen, 5 people need to see this. You know who he reminds me of? There's that guy that you need to share us with, that lady who's like, yo, she talks about seeing young leaders like that. So I go out and I walk the talk, and it's not easy. It is not easy because I had to unlearn what I was taught at MIT. I had to learn what I was taught in those ivory towers, that if you just went to a certain amount of schools and you spoke a certain way and you did a certain thing, I didn't say things. I was quiet for a long time, thinking that if I was quiet enough and only talked about my business, that people would put me on. And I had to unlearn that. And in unlearning that, I've attracted a new group of people who gets this and who's really excited about this. But 2, I'm walking in a certain level of freedom. And I think sometimes we're afraid to say, I'm betting on this young Black boy. You know what I mean? I think sometimes it's like, yeah, he's smart, he checks the right boxes, but you're afraid to say that. But if because what you've been taught is that it's some white dude out of Stanford in a hoodie. And when you see that, you think, oh, every time you see somebody go from IPO, that's what it looks like. But we are changing the culture. That's what we do. That's what we do. So
we know what it looks like here. That's why we're here. We know what it
true.
looks like. We that's exactly why we're here. We know. We know. We just have to do, because we know already. We know already. I mean, this is a no-brainer for us. That's why we're all right here. That's why the 10K project resonated with so many people, is because we know there's a need, and we know what Black people are capable of doing. Brothers and sisters, young and old. We know. We also know that we are a culture that has supported each other through centuries. And we know that together we can do anything, right? Because that's the other myth they want us to believe, is that we can't do it together, right? We have to remind ourselves that together is the only way we're going to do it. It's the only way. So you got me fired up. I was tired when this call started.
That's how you
fired up, man.
I told you. That's how I be getting these deals. I go in there about construction.
Listen. And while you telling them about TracFlo, tell them about 10K project too. How about that?
I got you. Who's in DC? I would love, we were looking for, matter of fact, we were looking for a panelist, a woman panelist, about everyone who we have. We just secured the lady around Black Women VC. I forget her name, but we just secured her. But we were looking for what we call some kind of retail investor type of person, but we need a woman panelist who's excited about investing in Black companies in DC on Thursday.
Listen, Cherie, our founder, she's not in DC, but she's mighty close. Cherie, come on now. I know you just got that head done. Go ahead and that salon visit, girl. Go ahead and be on that panel. I'm gonna connect.
Don't make fun of me, Tawana. Hi, Khalid.
Hey, Cherie.
Listen, they need us on the panel, Cherie.
We need it. We're gonna record it. We're gonna post it. It's gonna be intimate, but the conversations we're gonna take out to the world. We push them out to the world.
All right. We'll connect offline.
Okay.
We may send Talisha.
Send
yeah, well, we can send Talisha. That's right.
Send Talisha.
Oh yeah.
We need a Talisha on there.
I'm sure I'll get a text message in a minute talking about who said I was down. I did. we can be here all night because y'all got me fired up. I gotta take dogs out. We go.
All right.
Khalid, this is awesome. That's right, Dean. Cash Money Brothers, CMB. That's it.
Oh man, but
this is awesome. Y'all know what y'all got to do. Just do it. Khalid, keep doing the good work, putting in the good fight. We wish you all the success that is coming your way, brother. We'll see you in 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years.
Ringing that bell.
What I'm talking about. That's it. And I am dead serious about Thursday. We need a Black woman to represent, to share her space. And she could be retail. We want someone that's not, we have a VC, we want a non-VC person. So that's exactly who we want. So that'll be perfect. And then again, we activate in the culture. We gonna put ourselves on. So and if more people can know about 10K Project and we can grow your membership, again, that's just feeding the engine. I'm going to push this engine.
That's exactly what it's doing. Yep.
So, all right, y'all gonna have me out here all night, man.
Alicia or Cherie gonna be there. One of those people gonna be there on Thursday.
Okay, perfect. All right, I see you guys. This was amazing.
Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining us again this week. I appreciate you. Without this community, we are nothing. So thank you, 10K members. All right. Thank you, Khalid.
Thank you all. Bye.